Sir.
We'll get this going. 1, 2, 3, go. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of VR 365. A little bit of technical difficulties, as always. It wouldn't be a VR 365 episode without technical difficulties, and I'm still having technical difficulties as I'm speaking here. It's saying YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, viewers will experience buffering. So go ahead and let me know in chat if we've got some serious problems in terms of this stream. I might have too many kids doing too many things on too many computers in my house, which is not shocking at all. But anyway, guys, we are ready to go here, and this is episode 378. Can you believe that? 378, the longest running VR podcast on planet Earth. No, actually, there might actually be some other VR podcasts that started before when this show started. This show originally started, it was basically VR Game Rankings daily vlog, and it was on a different YouTube channel. And I know it started in 2017 is when I was doing the VR Game Rankings daily vlog. And if you add up all my shows that were that style, this is number 378, which is pretty incredible, but there might be some other shows that are a little longer running. But you know what, folks? We've got a special guest today, Virtual Strangers. Wes is in the building, Lethal Weasel. What is going on, man? How are you doing?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me on. I'm sure it's going to be fun as always.
Yeah, it will. As soon as I relax and calm down from all these technical difficulties, it is going to be great. But you know what? I actually got a lot of interesting questions to hit you up with, and I think this will be a cool episode. In fact, I can tell you, Wes, one of the reasons I really wanted to have you on is because you have a knowledge of all these VR games. You're one of the few people out there that like you keep your eye on everything. You know what I mean? You're watching like all the different games that are coming to PlayStation VR, the different games that are coming to the Oculus Quest, the different games that are coming to Steam. You try a lot of these games, and so you're up on all of it. So I feel like it's a good idea to have you as a guest on the show to talk about like the different games that have come out and stuff like that. And you've also recently acquired yourself an HP Reverb G2. You are the man. You are living a dream. You are in the future. But going back to all the games and stuff, how do you find the time to check out all these games, touch all these games? When do you sleep? How does it work?
Well, I don't sleep. First of all, I play VR games instead of sleeping, and it's easy to play them all if you're content with playing about 30 minutes each and then moving on, which is pretty much what we've done here for the last year. But we are making a concerted effort this year. It was part of our New Year's resolution on the 2020 show to play less games, but play deeper into them and finish them, actually. So we're going to try that out and see how it works. But I got to say, thus far, it's been just more of the same, just more of us jumping into this one and that one and on to the next.
Yeah, it's hard, man, because if you really want to like, I mean, that's the thing. It's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So you sample every little game that comes out there and you get like a quick little taste of it, but you can't go into the deep end of the swimming pool. You're in the shallow end. You're kind of seeing what's going on. And then people will say, yeah, man, but you're not in the deep end. But then if you go into the deep end and you do that, then you're going to miss out on a ton of other stuff, and you're not going to have this like overall awareness of everything. So do you feel it's beneficial ultimately for your show to kind of sample like that? I mean, I know you have this idea where you want to get deeper into games, but it's like you got to move to a cabin in the woods and just get off of YouTube, right?
Well, that's the thing, right? I can't do 2 solid months on The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, which would be pretty much what would happen if I just allowed myself to play what I wanted to play. It would be Saints and Sinners like every week. So no, you're right. I've got to, for the benefit of all the viewers, at least, try out new stuff. And there's new stuff coming all the time. And here's the really thing that really makes it difficult now is more and more often I'm finding that I actually like these games that I'm playing. So like I'll play something and I'll get hooked into it immediately and say, man, this is really good. I'm definitely going to finish this one. But then I'll get an email from this developer. Here's your key that you asked for, or here, try out our game. I'm so and so. Please try out our game. And then I'll say, you know what? I'll just peek in real quick and just to see what it looks like, and I'll get hooked on that one. So as it currently stands, I've got like 50 games that I want to play all the way through, and then more coming in every day.
Yeah, it's madness, man. I mean, there's just no proper way to do it. I mean, you got to try to do the best that you can do. But I mean, you kind of remind me of like gamer tag VR in how much stuff you're hitting. Now, he is legendary though. Dude is streaming a new game every time I turn on YouTube or something, he's like streaming some game, doing some kind of podcast show or something. I have no idea how that dude does it. It's just crazy. I mean, aren't you amazed?
And and he has a full-time job on top of it. That's what's amazing about it. It's like he's not doing YouTube for a living. He's finding time to do all of this. He has a wife, he has a family, and a full-time job, just like you do and I do. And I mean, it's just nuts. I don't know how he does it.
And he like works out and all that. And I know I do this little workout routine, and like I'm nowhere near gamer tag VR or anything like that. I'm just doing this little basic workout routine, but I do it every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, like right when I get home from work, and it takes time. It freaking takes time. That's like your discretionary time, basically, and so whatever you're doing. It'll take some of that time, and you've only got so much of it. I just don't know how people do it. Okay, so anyway, let's go ahead and get into some of these questions that I wanted to hit you up with. And I've got all kinds of things here, and I wanted to put them into like legitimate categories and kind of do that, but I didn't have time. So we're just going to kind of like go through all kinds of weird stuff. And so we'll be bouncing all over the place, but I think some of it will be quite interesting. Okay, so one of the first things I want to talk to you about is this topic of toxic positivity. Yeah, toxic positivity, a weird topic, right? But I've noticed this in a number of different communities, and especially on Twitter. And I'm wondering if you've noticed this as well, Wes, or like on some of the different subreddits, or in some of the different, maybe not the Discords, because I think when you get into the Discord servers, people are more real there, right? But when you're on like Twitter and stuff, there's almost like this, yeah, everybody loves VR, and we all love each other, and I love your channel, and you love my channel, and I love this game, and I love this developer, and everything is happy and joyous. And is this a weird thing to you at all, that the idea of toxic positivity, or are you pretty cool with like, I mean, it's better to have toxic positivity than negativity, right? But does it ever wear on you?
Yeah, man, and that's why I find myself on the social media less and less these days. Literally, when it comes to my progression through the different apps on my phone, we'll start with Discord, and then we'll go to YouTube and YouTube Studio, and somewhere way down the list is Twitter. And I don't even, I don't even mess with Reddit or Facebook or anything hardly at all anymore. But I get what you're saying, and I'm not so sure how toxic it is, but it certainly can be annoying from certain time, from time to time when everybody's always putting everything about themselves out there, and then it seems like depending on how many followers that person, there's a line a mile long behind them, just waiting to pat them on the back and say, way to go. But again, who am I to piss on the sunny day if that's what they need to feel good about themselves, then I guess more power to them.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure it's like people are like deliberately going out of their way to be so positive, like consciously. I think it's like an unconscious thing or like a subconscious thing where it's just the way Twitter is. Now, of course, Twitter also goes completely to the other side where it's nothing but bitching and like, F you, man, and like, arguments going back and forth like that. But then there's the complete opposite where it's like nothing but love and joy and everything is happy and everything is beautiful and this game looks good and that developer is great and I love your game and I love this and I love that. And yeah, it can be a little bit crazy, but I just
I
go ahead.
I think a lot of it is more than anything is just a way for everyone to say, "Look at me." They're on there saying some super cool, overly positive thing, but it's just a way for them to say, "There's a lot of people here. Everybody, look at me. I'm here too. Hello." You know.
Yeah, it's weird too because it's like when people like if I tweet out something and someone replies to my tweet, I feel like if I don't like the person's reply, I'm almost being a straight up dick. You know what I mean? And so, but then I don't want to be like, I can't just give everybody a like just automatically because that's kind of lame too. Basically, what I'm trying to say, folks, is I'm new to Twitter, don't really understand it, still figuring it out. But yeah, I think it was Blair Renaud of Lo-Fi. He was the guy that mentioned toxic positivity. And he's great on Twitter, by the way. Like, he will talk major shit. He's not worried about what people think about him. I respect that quite a bit. So I just saw this toxic positivity here. I thought I'd mention that. Okay, so let's see here. One of the things that I have on here is Viveport Infinity. So we were just talking just a little while ago about how you like to, you're trying to touch all these different games. And what do you think about Viveport Infinity? Because personally, I think it's one of the most incredible VR products that's out there, if not the most incredible VR product that's out there, but it doesn't get anywhere near the love I think it deserves. Do you use it at all, or have you used it? What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I've had a subscription to it for a couple of years now, and you're right. It has become the best deal in VR, hands down. There's not even a close second. They're adding games literally weekly, good games. Now, some not so good games as well, but they're adding good games almost weekly on there. And the fact that it's not getting the love that it deserves really just goes to show you the power of the negative review, right? Because, when I came into VR, there was always this stigma around Viveport about how it takes up a lot of your
Oh,
system
yeah.
resources, about how it always runs in your background. So a lot of people, a lot of the OG VR enthusiasts just kind of tuned out anything positive about Viveport, and they're still fighting that to this day, I think.
That's true. And I have to like raise my hand and say guilty as charged because I swear in the first couple of years that I was doing this, anytime somebody would mention Viveport, it wasn't so much, I don't even know if Viveport Infinity existed right away. Like it came a little bit later, but like somebody would mention Viveport and there were so many horror stories about like blue screens of death and crashing your PC and this problem and that problem. And I that's all I heard about it. And I was like, there's no way I'm getting Viveport unless I have a backup PC and I put it on a backup PC. And then if it kills that backup PC, it's like, oh, well, that's not my primary PC. I'm okay with it. And that was my feelings about it for a couple of years. But public service announcement, people, they've updated. It's not the same software. It's not the same software that it was originally. I think it hasn't caused me any problems whatsoever. I've had no problems whatsoever. And there are so many games on Viveport Infinity. It is sickening. It is unbelievable. It is amazing. I mean, if somebody, I'm gonna bring it up online here real quick. Viveport Infinity, because let's take a look at some of the games because it is just freaking ridiculous how much stuff is on here. And so what? It costs like $16 a month or something. Let me see. So let's go ahead and switch over here. And so, yeah, so unlimited virtual reality with Infinity, your next adventure awaits. And I mean, here's a couple examples of some games that it has recently, like Paper Beast, The Room VR, A Dark Matter, Down the Rabbit Hole, Five Nights at Freddy's, Moss. But there's just so much, man. Jupiter Grad, Mini Motor Racing. Like, why is anybody buying any games? Don't you think you could get away with, like if you just bought a Rift S or a Valve Index, or, well, I don't know about HP Reverb G2. I don't know how good that works with Infinity, but these other headsets, you've got a smorgasbord of stuff to play. Why don't people do this?
Yeah, I just don't think people know for the most part, and we do our best. We do a segment at the end of our Sunday show every week called Free Stuff and Killer Deals, and I track the new additions to Viveport weekly, and we bring them up on there. And most weeks there's some new game on there. In most cases, it's a game that hasn't even been out a month yet, and it's already on Infinity. So I don't know why it hasn't gained more traction. I think a lot of it has to do with, in years prior, as they were trying to establish Infinity, they pretty much gave it away. It was almost free, and now it's not. Now you got to pay for it. And, as great of a deal as it actually is, there are those of us who are very budget minded who are thinking, maybe if I wait one more month, they'll give it away again, like they did last time. So maybe that has a little something to do with it as well.
Yeah, so the actual cost for Infinity is $13 a month. The only real downside that I've ever seen with it is hard drive space. Because it's like that's the thing. A lot of these games are like 10 gigs, 9 gigs, whatever. And if you've got like SSD drives, they're probably smaller and your space might be a little bit limited. And you start just downloading all these different games willy-nilly. And eventually you really start to run out of hard drive space. But here's an example of like all these different games that they've got on here. Like for $13, so you could just get it for, I know this sounds like a straight up commercial, like I'm being paid by HTC. I'm not. I should be, though. HTC, I could be your freaking official spokesman like Jared. And I promise you, I will not do what Jared did. No, I'm just kidding. But if you look at these games, we got Phasmophobia, Super Hot, Arizona Sunshine, Saints and Sinners, Crunch Element. Talk about a recent release right there. Gnomes and Goblins, that's a cool one where, like, if you went to Steam and you were going to play Gnomes and Goblins, it's like $30. It's not exactly cheap. You get to try the whole entire thing here. Paper Beast, Down the Rabbit Hole, Last Labyrinth, Space Channel 5. The other cool thing about this too, Wes, is I'm sure you've noticed this as well, but as you go through the VR gaming world, right, games will slip through the cracks. There's games that you just somehow miss. Like I missed Gun Club VR or Swords of Gargantua or like Last Labyrinth or even Crisis VR Gate 2. Like I've missed, like those games slip through the cracks. I didn't play those games and now I can double back. And then there's freaking incredible games like Westworld Awakening, baby, one of my all-time favorites, and then like Rakuten X, Synthra. I mean, this is just ridiculous. It's simply ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, look, Vertigo Remastered. I mean, talk about an awesome game with a little bit of a price tag attached to it. The monthly cost for Infinity is a fraction of that. And then what you're talking about, these games that slipped under the cracks. Last Labyrinth was that for me, and that game is absolutely incredible in my opinion. I really enjoyed the 30 minutes that I spent in it. But what else Infinity is really good for, and what I probably use it for most of the time when I'm actually downloading stuff from it, are these non-gaming VR applications. These things like Gloomy Eyes, these experiences. And there's a lot of like educational applications on there as well. Virtual museums. There's one on there called the Holy Land, which is, it's a really, really good informative educational program that goes for like $20 on Steam. And there's no way you're going to buy that. But, you can get it as part of your subscription on Infinity.
Yeah, you mentioned Gloomy Eyes, and I tried it for the first time because of Viveport, and totally blown away by Gloomy Eyes. Like, I thought that was freaking incredible. Then they have these coming soon games. Now, the one caveat I will say about these coming soon games is, like, for example, Hinge. Like, there was a date where, like, it was coming to Viport on, like, December 4th. Well, that obviously never happened. It's January 26th. It's still not on Viport, but I think a lot of that is because the game is kind of like, the developers, like, kind of like patching the game and making it better. So they're probably going to wait till that's kind of done a little bit more before they bring it to Viport. But Rhythm of the Universe, Ionia, they had a special demo that was on there for that at one point. I don't know if it's still there, but I actually tried like a little sneak peek into Rhythm of the Universe Ionia. But like stuff like Awake In, which looks after the fall. Like, who knew that that was coming? Now, it's probably not going to come, day and date or anything. It might be like a month later or 2 months later. But 1976 Back to Midway, I know you really like that game, right? I haven't checked that out yet. Vin, the VR Adventure, Mask Maker, there's lots of good stuff. So, yeah, I didn't want to like turn this into the Viveport Infinity program, but there is a lot of good stuff there. So just wanted to mention that. Speaking of this whole, it's kind of a related topic to Viveport Infinity. And one of the things that I've tried recently, Wes, is not that I've tried it recently, but I got back into it, is SideQuest. Like, I haven't messed with SideQuest that much, but I recently got back into SideQuest, and there's demos of various games that are only available through SideQuest. They're not on the official Oculus Quest store. For example, there's a demo for Rakuten X. There's a demo for Synth Riders. There's a number of other demos that are out there. And if you download these demos, they play perfectly smooth. Like it feels like it would have been perfectly fine on the official Oculus Quest store. And the question I have about it is, why does Facebook not want these demos on the official Oculus Quest store? Is it a case where there could be too much free stuff? Like, is it bad to have too much free stuff?
Yeah, I think that you nailed it there. I mean, they're trying to sell people games, right? I'm sure one school of thought says, well, let everyone have a free sample. But then you have those other people who go to the food court and get a free sample from every booth and never end up actually buying anything. They get full on the freebies. So I've kind of feel like maybe there's some of that going on here. The Oculus Quest store has been very, very lucrative for not only the people at Oculus, but the developers as well. And we're just kind of assuming that it's Oculus that's not allowing these on there. It may actually, in some cases, be the developers themselves not wanting to give the whole world, their game.
Well, the thing is, when we have this new system that they're going to do, where you can like, you don't even have to go through the process of like saying that you're a developer and going through SideQuest. There's this new system where we're going to get like these URLs and stuff like that. I was mentioning this on Next Dimension podcast with Sebastian on MRTV, that what developers could do when this happens is they could just tweet out, like Rakuten X, One Hamza, they could just tweet, like, check out this demo with the URL, and all you got to do is copy that link, and you get into your little Facebook Oculus account, and you'll insert it somewhere in there, and then later that night when you turn on your Oculus Quest, all you do is you go into your library and you just have to download it, and bam, it's there. And so aren't these things going to be available to even more people? But it's this extra step, and it won't be officially on the store. So I don't know how Facebook is going to manage that.
I think that what's likely to happen is you're likely to see probably even SideQuest become more of a hub for these links, and kind of a central place where people can post this stuff and download it, like you said, without even having to sideload. You can just go into your Oculus web browser, bookmark the page, maybe even have it as your home page. And then that way, when you click on your browser, SideQuest pops up, all of these new games right at the top of the feed. And all you got to do is click on it and it installs.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's going to be an interesting situation when it happens. And in a related question, one of the things I wanted to ask too is about game sales. In the VR gaming world, it seems like there is game sale after game sale. I mean, a month will go by and there will be no sales. But then a month later, there's another sale. And a month after that, there's another sale. And it's kind of like the same old games over and over. It's like this game, like everybody must own all the same games at this point because they all go on sale repeatedly. Do you feel like all these game sales is almost like a bad thing, or you see it as a good thing? What about the developers, though, that are releasing like a brand new game and then boom, there's a huge game sale? It's like, what are you going to buy? Some unknown developer's brand new game, or are you just going to go pick up a bunch of known commodities on sale?
There's certainly negative aspects to it. I mean, it's great that somebody can go buy a VR headset, and they're probably, even with it being a $300 entry point now, they're still probably going to be pretty spent. That's not a small amount of money for most people. So it's good that people can pretty quickly put together a substantial library of really good games for not much money. I've one of the things we saw on Free Stuff and Killer Deals this past week was a game that I really enjoyed, Intruders Hide and Seek, for $2 on Steam, $2. And then there's other great games like the Mirrorwind games are always super cheap. Boiling Steel, which I thought was very underrated. You can normally get that for $5 or less. But there is a downside to that because it kind of skews the value proposition for new games. So you have these new games that come out,
Like Hitman
and
3 that I didn't buy because it's like I've been trained not to spend full price.
exactly, exactly. It's like VR developers or potential VR developers, when people are trying to decide whether or not they're going to introduce a game into the VR market or just to make another flat game, they have to deal with this contention that, you know, what would be $50 to the mainstream gaming world is now 25 or $30 here. And you almost can't break through that $30 wall. Anything that costs more than $30, it's like almost immediately going to get shit all over unless it's this great AAA, 20-hour experience. So we're kind of slowly but surely defeating that. Last year it was $20 instead of $30. But yeah, it certainly has a downside when it comes to new games and new developers coming into the fold.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting because we do have these different price points, right? And there is a psychological thing to these price points. Like if somebody comes out with a game that's $19.99, you feel differently about that game compared to $24.99. It's only $5. It's only $5, but there's something psychological like, oh, it's under 20. It's affordable. It's cheap. And then it's like, oh, that's $24.99. They're trying to juice you a little bit more. And then if it goes up to $29.99, you're like, okay, now these people really want some effing money here. And then if it's like $14.99, it's like, whoa, what a bargain. And then $9.99, damn, they're giving it away for free. It's like all these different little psychological things, right? Subconsciously, I guess.
Yeah, and could you only imagine if Viveport Infinity actually was a bigger part
Oh
of the
my
public
God.
consciousness, how difficult it would be to sell games then? Because, I mean, there's literally 700 games on there, and I'd say a good 200 legit good ones for very little money per month.
Now, speaking of game, because you cover so many games, and you're covering games coming to PlayStation VR, and games coming to Steam, and games coming to Quest, and something being on Viveport Infinity for the first time or whatever, and you're covering all this stuff, I know that one thing that you've probably noticed is weird exclusivity things that are going on behind the scenes that, for example, okay, so right now I'm running a trailer for Cookout, a Sandwich Tale. Now, when this game first came out, I believe it hit the Quest and maybe the Rift, but it was not on Steam. And so it was kind of like there's a lot of these like Oculus timed exclusives, but nobody talks about it. Nobody says anything about it. But it's like, for example, like Vin VR Adventure, right? Vin VR Adventure is on like Oculus Rift, but if you go to Steam, it's like coming to Steam at some time in the future. It's like, oh, did it really take a long time to work on the Steam version when you got it running on the Rift? So we know that these are like some weird little exclusive things that are going on. And my question for you, Wes, is what do you think developers are getting out of this from Oculus? For example, a developer like Resolution Games, they did this same thing with Blast On, right? Blast On was on the Oculus Quest only, but they don't even, like, the weirdest thing is people don't even talk about this. Like, they don't even mention it. And it like slips, like people will talk about it when it's like some big giant game like Lone Echo or something. But if it's a smaller game, no one talks about like these weird little exclusivity deals that are going on all over the place.
Honestly, I don't think that it's so much of exclusivity deals as just VR developers going to where the money's at first. Obviously, Oculus Quest is kind of its own thing, separate from PCVR or PSVR, and it's established itself now as the honeypot for VR developers. And while it's commendable for developers like Arvor Immersive with their Pixel Ripped, they tend to like to develop for all platforms, and they'll take as long as it takes to make sure that they're ready to launch everywhere on day one. Other companies want to recoup some of that cost ASAP. And I feel like more than anything, that's what's happening here. They want to launch on Quest, so they get the Oculus version ready first, and then you have the adoption of OpenXR, which has been slow but is finally coming along. That everybody's adopting that platform now. But I think more than exclusivity, I think it's just people trying to get to the money faster. And in the specific case of Cookout, I want to just go ahead and make sure everybody knows that Cookout is coming to Steam. They just put up a page on Steam now, so you can wishlist it and it'll be released sometime fairly
Yeah,
soon.
actually, there's a story on Upload VR about it. Let me see if I can just check real quick. I know it said that Cookout. I saw it somewhere. But the problem is, Cookout a Sandwich Tale is coming to Steam VR soon. I don't know if it gives an actual date. Let me see. They never give the date right away in the headline because they, of course, want you to click into the article.
There's no date. I got
Okay, yeah, there's no
the
date.
press release. There's no date yet.
Yeah, but I hear what you're saying. So like you could have a simultaneous launch on all the like some developers want to have a simultaneous launch where they have a very specific date and boom, it's hitting all platforms on this day and this is the big day. And then other developers seem to kind of like stagger their releases. One advantage of like maybe staggering your releases is the fact that you will get this extra boost of press. For example, Cookout is now coming to Steam. If it came everywhere simultaneously, there wouldn't be this extra day where you get an extra story that reminds people about Cookout. So maybe it's almost like when developers put something into early access and then they come out of early access, it's like they have another grand opening celebration. You know what I mean? So they get the awareness. They're back in the awareness cycle.
Well, I think The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners is the perfect example of this. They dropped on PCVR last January, and then they expanded onto Quest and PlayStation VR throughout the year, and then they had their playable expansion. And even still today, 1 year later, they haven't fully launched across all platforms because the trial for Oculus Quest is coming in just a couple of weeks. And at that point, they'll be fully released across all platforms. It's taken them a full year to do, and every couple of months, like clockwork, they've had some kind of launch on a major VR platform. It's worked brilliantly. I think they're reporting something like I don't know, $28 million of revenue or profit or something last week. So there's certainly advantages to that, especially for a highly sought after title like that.
So we've got a number of different comments in chat I wanted to hit up real quick. I usually never look at chat hardly, but I'm actually looking at it right now, folks. And person says H3VR, which is hot dogs, horseshoes, and hand grenades, has never gone on sale in 5 years and never will. And I've seen, and Ray Pope just did a super chat saying, sorry for the toxic positivity. We'll accept it if you want to throw some money our way and be real toxic with it. Go ahead. Yeah, so wait, what was I just talking about a second? Oh, yeah, H3
You were
VR.
talking about hot
Yeah.
dogs, yeah.
I've noticed this with some other games too, like Compound. You know that one game Compound? I don't think that shit's ever gone. Like there's certain games like Blade and Sorcery as well. They're like, no, bro, you are paying. I mean, it's only $19.99, so it's not that bad. But they're like, nah, man, we don't even think about sales. We never gonna do a sale. You got a deal. You got to pay full price. It's kind of funny.
You know what the even funnier thing about it is you've mentioned these three games just there, very popular games that have never gone on sale. Three games that I've never played once. None of them. I've never tried any of those games, and probably because they've never gone on sale.
Yeah, I can tell you, I've never bought like the full version of Compound. If it was like half off, like a 50% off sale where it was $9.99, I'd probably and actually, I mean, it maybe has had one sale, maybe. I don't want to be too definitive with this because somebody be like, well, you don't realize back in May of 2016, it did go on sale. But VR Spry Guy in chat says, I keep waiting for Walkabout Mini Golf to come to Steam, and that's another example. So Walkabout Mini Golf is on the Quest, and it's on the Rift. It's in the Rift store and the Quest store, and on Steam, it's coming soon. And again, it's what I think might be happening here, Wes, is I think Oculus might be going to some developers and saying, if you guarantee that, if you give us like a 90-day exclusivity window where you can't say nothing about nothing, but it's only on our platforms for 90 days, we'll let your, we'll let you have some Quest action. You can get in on this nice, juicy Quest store, baby. You think they're maybe doing that, or maybe it's some kind of co-marketing deal, like they'll give them some space on like the Quest store or the Rift store where they'll give some prominent, you know how they have their little like ads that pop up, like prominent placement of, it's got to be something, there's something going on. So developers out there that want to spill the beans secretly, you can email me at info@vrgamerankings.com and tell me what is going on behind the scenes. I know there's something happening here. Payola.
Well, the funny thing is if there were something like that going on, and I wouldn't put it past Facebook. As shady as and underhanded as that may seem, it's kind of fair game. But we've seen that they're not above doing some shady things to get ahead in business. But even if there were some developers that were partaking in such a deal, I doubt they're going to be the ones spilling the beans. Now, if you want to talk to the guys behind Big Screen or To the Top, I'm sure that they might be a little bit more forthcoming, although they might not have the same kind of info that you're looking for.
You know who will spill the beans? Blair Renaud, baby.
Oh, damn straight. When you brought him up earlier, I laughed because literally his name was on the tip of my tongue. I was going to tell you, anytime you're feeling that there's too much positivity on Twitter, go hit up Blair Renaud's feed because that guy keeps it real.
Absolutely. Also, Ray Pope, before he did that real nice super chat, really appreciate it, Ray. But before he did that, he had a comment where he said that he never buys a game under $5. And I kind of understand that because you have this idea, you get what you pay for, right? That's what we all think. You get what you pay for. And so if there's a game that's ridiculously cheap, you might wonder, there must be something fishy about this game, right? This doesn't make any sense. But I want to show folks, let me see here if I can get this entered in. There is a game right now, ladies and gentlebots, 99 Scintilla. Let's go to the VR 365 web browser system here, and Dimension Hunter by Pocket Money Games, mostly positive. I thought, dude, this was like Pistol Whip mixed with Beat Saber, like years before that shit happened. I mean, not really like a real rhythm game, but it has this beat and it's got the cell shading, it's got lies beneath graphics and all this. This was a fun little romp. I don't know if you've ever tried this, but 99 Scintilla?
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. That's 90% off. That was a $10 game forever. and I did try it. This is one of the games that I played all the way through. I did enjoy it. Not a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination, but among the early rail shooters in VR, this is one of the better
And
ones.
also among the early games to go with this like cell shaded kind of comic book style that a lot of people forget about this one. And the developer of this game, which is Pocket Money Games, like a long time ago on Twitter, they tweeted out Dimension Hunter 2, and I haven't heard anything of it's been like a year and a half since that tweet, and I don't know what the hell happened to it. But God, I can't believe this is 99 cents and nobody talks about it. And there's also a demo. But I mean, dude, just dropped the 99 cents. But I just wanted to mention that.
Right?
Go ahead.
I said no. I was just
Oh,
agreeing
okay.
with you.
All right. So let's see here. We got some other things to get into. So you know what? We were talking about like the Quest store for a quick second there. And one thing I wanted to ask you related to the Quest is Oculus Link. Okay. So like I was really, really, really late to the party with Oculus Link. But after selling my Valve Index, I thought, well, let me see if I can make my Quest 2 my daily driver. And let me get like the official Oculus Link cable. Let me get a little PCIe card that I could put into my motherboard so it has the direct little USB-C connector so there's no adapters of any kind, man. I'm going to have the best scenario ever, right? And so I get all this stuff. But what I didn't realize is you have to have a pretty freaking strong GPU to make this shit work. And in all my times of hearing people talk about Oculus Link, I never heard anybody talk about that. Did you know that like you've got to have a pretty beefy GPU because it's like going to be doing the compression or whatever and sending it over the link to the Quest and that whole thing? Did you know about that?
Yeah, I knew. Well, I mean, I've pretty much had all of this stuff since very early on, and I've always had more than enough GPU overhead to cover it. But yeah, I'm very aware that it's more resource heavy than running just a conventional headset. And the way that you find that out is when you try to make videos, when you try to capture gameplay, because it really cuts into that overhead that you would normally be using on OBS and Audacity and all the other tools that you use to make videos. So yeah, I've been aware of it. I've never really had a problem with it because my graphics card's always been enough to cover
Humble
it.
brag, bro.
But
Humble
yeah, I
brag.
mean, I'm just saying, bro, it's never been a problem for me.
Yeah,
No, I'm just kidding.
yeah.
Not really. But yeah, I'm aware of it. But I haven't heard a lot of people complaining about their results with Oculus Link. For the most part, uh, most people have been surprised with how good it runs, even though it is fairly resource intensive.
Okay. Let's see here. Let me see what else can I get into here. Um, well, let's get into some bigger gaming issues, like overall VR gaming. I got some questions that I think are like touching some bigger topics here. And one of the questions I have is about the recent Apple VR announcement that we heard about, where Apple might be getting involved in this game. It appears that they are going to be getting involved in this game. They've acquired so many different companies over the last several years, a lot of which are VR specific. And when they acquired Next VR, I thought that was the big, that was the awakening that something is really happening. And then, of course, we got this big Bloomberg story that broke. But the question I have here is, okay, so Apple's VR headset, we know Apple likes things to be very sexy and sleek, and they have style. Apple is all about style. They invented the idea of the all white background commercial. Like, they freaking invented that shit, and everybody and their mom has copied that to date, including Facebook. Plenty, like Facebook with Oculus, it's almost like they've tried to kind of copy Apple all along with a lot of their marketing and everything. So they're all about this sexiness and stuff. And one of the things that we heard about in relationship to this Apple VR headset is that it might have like these prescription inserts that you're going to have to get if you wear glasses, because there's going to be no space for there's going to be no glasses spacer, and there's going to be no space to stick your glasses up in there. And what that means for a lot of people is, oh, they're going to go with pancake lenses, and they're probably going to have micro LEDs, and it's going to look very similar to the Panasonic VR glasses that we've heard about. And my question for you, Wes, in regards to this is this a good thing or a bad thing? Because on the one hand, of course it's a good thing. It's Apple being involved in VR, right? I mean, that how could that be anything but a good thing? But on the downside of it is the fact that if we start going to these like smaller, sleeker VR glasses, we're also chopping the FOV down like a mofo, because that's one of the downsides of these things. Like the Panasonic VR glasses, no one knows exactly what the FOV is on this thing, but everybody thinks it's around 70 degrees. And it is micro OLED, high dynamic range, incredibly high resolution, really tiny screens. The screens that are in there are like 1 inch by 1 inch. And at first when you think, holy crap, you're going to see all the edges of the screen, it's going to be garbage. But no, they have the screen so damn close, and you know the way they do the lenses and stuff, it expands it so it covers your vision. But we're talking 70 degrees. Do you worry that this is going to be like 1 step forward, 4 steps back, because FOV is so freaking critical?
Yeah, I think that, and I'm not sure FOV is going to be the thing that gets sacrificed, but there's going to be trade-offs. You know, if we've seen anything with Apple products, is that they always have one or two things that they're the best at. Like iPhones, for example, always have these incredible screens and these incredible cameras. And I think that we could see something similar with this product. I think that it's pretty much goes without saying that it's probably going to have super high resolution HDR panels in it. Now, I can't speak to the form factor. I think even the Bloomberg article mentioned that it's something a little closer to the Oculus Quest form factor, but maybe a bit more compact. But whatever it is, I do think that it's going to have a couple of things that just knock it out of the park at the expense of something else. But really, that's the case for every VR headset. They all have their advantages and disadvantages, and I think this is going to be no different.
The only thing I'm concerned with, though, is because it's Apple, there's such a tendency for everybody to follow the leader, you know? And Apple is like this dominating thing, right? And they have such a cult, you know, the cult of Mac, and just like everybody that's into Apple and all that, and their fans. And so it's like, oh, Apple finally has a VR headset, and now they're showing the way forward, and it's like small, it's sleek, it's sexy, similar to these Panasonic VR glasses. These have pancake lenses, the micro OLED, HDR, and all that. Of course, the big downside is you are sacrificing the field of view. And then the other thing too is, like, when it comes to Apple, do you think there's a chance that it's going to come in a box with 2 big controllers? I don't think so.
No. I think that when it comes to downsides and the potential for damage from follow the leader mentality, I think that the bigger threat here is on the software side. I think that you know, with VR being such a small market, that obviously developers are all going to go to where the money's at. And if this thing does turn out to be really popular, I have a feeling that a lot of the applications on this might be our equivalent of mobile gaming, you know, cell phone gaming. And they could be these simpler experiences that hand tracking even would probably be enough to allow you to play through it, or a smaller, you know, controller. And I think that if this were the case, and it were to really catch on with the masses, everybody's Oculus Quest nightmare could be coming true. You know, you see all of this fear and paranoia from the PC people about what the popularity of the Quest might mean for the future of VR gaming. They're all afraid that the experiences are going to get watered down. I think that there's a real danger of that here with like an Apple VR.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be like, I don't think you're going to be playing like Saints and Sinners and stuff on this Apple headset. I think it's going to, what they're going to be concentrating on is is like applications where you're like meeting somewhere with other people, like little metaverse type things, and also like gloomy eyes type stuff, and like sports and things like that. And actually, speaking of sports, one thing I want to talk to you about, and this is something I always, well, it's something I'm kind of into in terms of like talking to people about this, is this idea of the breakthrough in what do you call it, in volumetric video. When are we going to get this volumetric video future, like light fields and all these different things? Right now on the screen, I have a sample from Google. I believe this is like some of this light field stuff that they're working on. And it kind of gives you a sample of like where you'll have a little bit of movement. You can move around a little bit within a bubble, and you're going to see this incredible video that kind of wraps around you in some sort of way. But this hasn't really happened so far. And Wes, I want to go back to, do you remember when we made the transition? This was like in the year like 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003. We made a transition from regular TVs to high definition TVs. And a lot of people, when they first got a high definition TV, they were watching like nature shows where like, oh my God, look at that lizard that's on that branch. It is so clear. It's freaking Technicolor, right? And people were like, you'd watch just dumbass shit because you were so blown away by just seeing the incredible high definition. And then, of course, we also had high definition games. Like I had a Sega Dreamcast way back then. And if you had a Dreamcast with the VGA adapter, you were balling out of control at 720p, man. There was a few games. There was like this NCAA basketball. There was only a handful of games that actually did this. But there was a college basketball game, I forget the name of it, but it ran in legit 720p, and you could have it in widescreen if you had a Dreamcast with that little VGA adapter. And I had this hella early HD TV. I got hella lucky. It's a long, long story, but I got this incredibly expensive HD TV hella early and got it dirt cheap. And I was playing that game, and I was living in the future. But in the VR world, we haven't had this revolution yet. We've had VR games, but where's our VR video revolution?
I think that it's been put on hold due to the financial difficulties of HTC. A lot of negative things could be said about HTC, but I think they deserve a lot of credit for the work that they're doing in volumetric video. And I think it's coming because like they have put a lot of investment in this. And I think if we see it anytime soon, it's going to be coming from them and the projects that they've been funding.
Yeah, well, I mean, HTC is, they're one of the players that are out there that could possibly do this, but it's, I mean, everybody. Not Qualcomm, I'm sorry, Intel had this thing. I'm actually trying to look for the Intel video in here, but I'm not seeing it. But Intel, this was in the year, I believe it was 2018. At the 2018 CES in Vegas, Intel was all about voxels. It was like voxels, voxels, voxels. And they showed this thing where like, it was like the Wild West, and it was totally 3D, and it was like Matrix style wrapping around. And they had this incredible like way they were filming everything. And we haven't seen anything of that. And I'm just wondering, is it something to do with like maybe the infrastructure of how do they deliver this? How do they deliver this stuff?
That particular technology is very, very intensive. You're talking about, orders of magnitude more data. I'm glad you mentioned that because I didn't know Intel had picked it up. I followed that technology. There was some startup out of Australia that specialized in this, something like 7 or 8 years ago. They were trying to get everybody to switch over to this voxel capture technology. And I wasn't aware that anybody actually bought into it because it was such ridiculous amounts of data involved. But our computers are catching up quickly. And I kind of think like that might be the barrier that has stopped this stuff from being adopted. But again, we're advancing at breakneck speeds now when it comes to our PC technology. So it's going to be an interesting couple of years.
Yeah, I'm having my computer. Hold on. My computer is like.
Just as I just as I talk about how awesome the computers are getting.
Yeah, what happened is I went to try to like grab another trailer, and the thing where it like pops up my trailers is just totally frozen. So it's like I can't seem to change trailers or anything. It's like completely frozen. I don't know what just happened. So anyway, we'll try to move on here. I got some other questions, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to change this damn trailer. Okay, let's see. Um, okay, well, let's talk about. Well, one thing in VR. So, have you ever seen this movie? It's called Her with Joaquin Phoenix, and it has like this like personal digital assistant that has the voice of Scarlett Johansson, and she's like talking to him and stuff. Have you ever happened to see that movie?
I have not, but that assistant sounds delightful, and I need one.
Yeah, well, what I'm wondering is because like we hear all this talk about like artificial intelligence and the singularity, man, and we're gonna be like Neuralink and all this stuff is like just around the corner. For example, if you go to Upload VR right now, they have a talk from Gaben. I mean, they have like some quotes from Gabe where he's talking about like BCIs and like the Matrix is not that far away and all these different things. And what I find interesting is if all of this is true, then where's the characters in VR that are like looking at us, asking us questions, faking some kind of realistic conversations with us? Like, I thought that would be one of the most powerful things in VR. And I remember going back to 2016 when VR first happened, one of the very first games that was out there was Call of the Starseed, the gallery episode 1 called the Starseed, and it did have a character at one point that like looked at you and like handed you stuff and all this stuff, and I thought this is what VR is all about. They know where your head is at, so there could be a character that's standing over there, and if you turn and look away, they could be like, hey, look at me when I'm talking to you. I mean, why don't we have things like that going on in VR gaming, do you think?
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Google jumped out so quick. I mean, when it comes to advancements in AI, Facebook's not really the leader, and nor is Sony. But when it comes to stuff like that, Google and Amazon, they have it down, right? So I feel like if Amazon had a VR headset, we'd all have Alexa in there, standing in front of us talking. But I agree, it really is a powerful thing in VR. When you make any kind of connection like this with the characters, I think back to Resident Evil 7, just how creepy it is. Anytime you're in the presence of Granny, the old one that's invalid in the wheelchair, no matter where you move at in the room, she's always looking at you. You can go to either side, anywhere in the room, and she can't speak, but she's always looking you dead in the eye. And it really sends chills down your spine, especially the first few times that you notice it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. My computer is still locked. I can't freaking change this trailer at all. I can't even get into like another OBS scene or anything. It's like it's completely frozen. So I'm stuck here like this, and I don't know what to do because if I do anything, it's going to ruin the stream. Like if I try to, so I guess we'll just have to leave it like this. Sorry about this, guys.
Oh, with
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
baby.
Okay. Okay, let's see. What are some other deep topics I wanted? Well, let's talk about the privacy thing really quick. So, I know with Next Dimension podcast, Sebastian from MRTV, he talks a lot about the privacy issues with Facebook, and I think it's like a really big thing in Germany where they're like really concerned about privacy a lot more than maybe we're concerned about it here in the USA. But I was interested in what your take is on like the privacy debate. And one of the things that let me give you my take real quick, and then you can riff off of this. So I've always kind of had this like defeatist attitude when it comes to privacy because my theory is I basically have this idea that if you have a technologically advanced society and you have privacy, these things are diametrically opposed to each other. These are like you know how they say it's not mutually exclusive? No, these are mutually exclusive. Like I feel like the more technologically advanced our society gets, the harder it is to maintain the illusion of privacy. But people will, like, when I say this, some people will be like, "You're the problem. You're the effing problem, man. It's people like you with these defeatist attitudes that got us into this problem." No, there's people that really want to lynch my ass for having this type of view from it. And I understand that angle of it as well. I do. I get it. But I don't know if is it like I'm just doing like some kind of easy cop out because it makes me feel better about like, okay, I'll just use everything and not worry about it because I have this defeatist attitude. But anyway, I was just curious, what do you think about the whole privacy issue?
I agree with you 100%. Privacy died in our country, in our world, a long time ago. Many years ago, it died. There's cameras plastered everywhere. There are microphones plastered everywhere. Anytime you install any kind of software on your phone, on your PC, there's this 1,000-page agreement that you have to click through without reading, most of which has to deal with the fact that they're taking all of your information. There's a race right now in the world uh, to be the ones who develop the AI, right? And the way the AI learns is it learns by feeding it data. And the more data they grab, the faster they can develop this very powerful technology of tomorrow. So there's really nothing that you can't put the genie back in the box at this point. They know who we are. They know what we're doing. The devices are watching us, and they're getting smarter every day. So yeah, while it stinks, it sucks. Especially, it's a kind of scary in today's world when you see the thought police mobilizing in the way that they are. That everybody's personal stuff is just kind of out there now. But Max Holloway said it. It is what it is. So that what are you going to
Yeah,
do?
and the other problem too is like you can enact all these different pieces of legislation, but that just gives penalties. It doesn't force these companies not to do it. So these companies can still do, like, they can still do completely illegal shit and just be like, well, if we actually get caught, the fine is such and such amount. And yeah, that would really hurt to have to pay that fine. But hey, it's better off to keep doing this and just worry about if we get caught, we'll pay a fine. And then if we get caught again, we'll pay a fine. And we're just going to keep on doing it. I mean, because we know, like, you think about like the NSA, the CIA, all the alphabet soup stuff. Like we saw with Snowden and everything, right? Like they're going to track everything at all times and they don't give a damn and they're going to continue to do it. And honestly, they probably should be doing it because think about our world. Think about all the biological, chemical agents that could be released. Somebody could create their own pandemic that they create in their own little lab that they make, or some kind of like dirty bomb, or somebody gets a hold of some small nuclear weapon and they want to set it off in some American city somewhere. So we do need to have these like unbelievably intrusive things that are analyzing everything, because otherwise the survival of humanity. I don't know if you've ever seen on Joe Rogan, he interviews this one guy every once in a while. His name is Lex Friedman, but it's spelled like Lex Fridman. And he does, oh, I think my thing just came back. Oh, no, it didn't. I'm sorry. He does these interviews with people. He had this podcast. It was called the Artificial Intelligence Podcast, but now I think it's called the Lex Friedman Podcast. And he'll have these guys on that are talking about all this stuff. And it's like the different threats that we have is just unlimited. The amount of threats that are out there, like that we don't think about, all the nuclear weapons, the biological stuff and all of that. So it's like we can't even have privacy if we really wanted it, I don't think.
Yeah, I think you're right. And with regards to the development of technology that's coming, through all of this data collection, it kind of goes back to the same arguments we had back during the Bush years when stem cells were kind of the hot topic thing. And people were putting forth the argument that by suppressing stem cell research in America, you're just kind of allowing the rest of the world to gain the upper hand in it. And I kind of think you would have the same thing here if our government were to put some kind of restriction in place with regards to all of this data collection. You would pretty much just be handing, the advancements in AI and in artificial intelligence development to the rest of the world. And again, this is going to be a very powerful thing in the coming decade. So, I mean, that's kind of a dangerous road to walk
Yeah, I
down.
wonder if at some point in the future, so like Ollie X Rehab says, what do you think? That military and healthcare don't have rules and don't bend them? Sure they do, but imagine how much stuff would be going on if we didn't even have rules. And he says you can't make anything foolproof, but you need to regulate as much as you can. Yeah, we're going to try. I mean, certainly everybody's going to try to do that. We're going to try to have different legislation and stuff. But as we get into AI and AI, like how do you regulate AI, especially when it starts to get to AI general intelligence and it's like thinking on its own. And then you're almost going to need to have AI that has like the human, it has our goals in line with its goals, and then maybe the AI could actually police things if you actually trust it enough to do so, and then it could fake us out, and we're all dead. I mean, we saw the dancing robots. We know it's all over. And yeah, Recycled says Lex is on YouTube, and hell yes, he is. And I'm telling you, if I didn't have that podcast, I don't know what I would do because Joe Rogan went to Spotify, and I still got YouTube. All right, let me go to a different topic here. Okay, I know. Here's a great topic, ladies and gentlemen. The worldwide pandemic. Yay! Let's talk about that. Okay, so the worldwide pandemic can be seen as one of the best things to ever happen to VR, but also one of the worst things to ever happen to VR. And here's how I'll break it down for you. So it's one of the best things that have ever happened to VR because of the whole idea of remote working and remote this and remote that. So there's this idea that we're going to be getting together in these rooms, and if we could do it in VR, that's so much better than Zoom because maybe you get a little bit of body language mixed in with the voice and stuff, so it adds more flavor to like the reality of conversations, makes them feel more real and stuff. So we know that Facebook, like different companies have said, the demand for this stuff has increased exponentially because of the pandemic. Also, people having to stay in their homes, there's not as much stuff to do, and VR is kind of this exciting thing. You can view other places, you could use Google Earth or whatever, and you can go visit Egypt and all this stuff. So there's cool things there. Now on the negative side, the pandemic is the worst possible thing for location-based entertainment and all the VR arcades out there. Like, I don't know if anybody has a VR arcade that is like going to survive this thing. Like, the Void basically died as far as I know. What do you think about this, like, mixed blessings with the pandemic? How do you feel about it?
I think what you're saying there about the location-based stuff is absolutely true. It's going to be, I mean, those places aren't going to be able to thrive until um, we're completely through this thing, till everybody's taken their inoculations and it's a thing of the past. And now, with that said, I think big picture, this is a net positive for VR. VR, while location based is going away, VR itself is pervading the public consciousness, not only out of convenience. Obviously, it's very convenient when you're isolated in your home to be able to put this device on and travel across the world and meet your family or even meet new people. You can work in the thing. I mean, we all know about the possibilities that VR brings to us in a time like this where we're all isolated. Not only that, but you've got the government handing out free money at a time where the VR hardware is at its highest supply and cheapest price. So people are picking this up quickly. And if anything, I think Apple jumping in is an indicator of this, where VR is going to be at in a couple of years. It's going to be a big deal. So that when we finally do get on the other side of this pandemic, everybody's going to be wanting VR, and then the location base can come back and bring us the next level, whatever that turns out
What
to
do you
be.
think though about this like fear that like we're never going back to normal? There's always going to be some type, like there's always going to be a new strain of this. Like this is like flu A and flu B. Like this is going to be flu B. There's always going to be new strains that maybe the vaccines don't work for or something. And see, the thing is, like, so I have a couple of different VR headsets, and sometimes my kids, they bring their friends over, and like if everything was normal, I'd be like, hey man, try this out, try this out. I'm not really doing that because I don't really want to give my headset to every Joe Blow out there, because VR is all up in your business. Let's face it, it's all up in here, and it's not very like, it's the worst possible scenario for like possibly spreading germs and stuff. Like I just don't know how anybody's going to do it. But it's so unfortunate because I thought stuff like the Void was just an incredible idea, and to see that like kind of crumble, and all the, because all this venture capitalist money went into all these things. And we could say, well, wouldn't it be nice if the Void could just say, okay, we're just going to pause for 3 years. We'll check back in with us in 2025 and we'll be back. But businesses can't do that. They just can't put their entire business on hold for 4 or 5 years. It doesn't work like that. Like they've leased these big, gigantic locations that they're paying ridiculous sums of rent for. So do you think, though, that eventually things will kind of come back in terms of being able to have VR arcades and location-based entertainment, and like even like Disneyland and these other regular places that we go to, like they're going to start integrating more VR themselves as well, you would think, but now this might slow that down a little bit.
Yeah, all of this stuff is going to be affected. Not just, VR related stuff, but when you go cinemas, amusement parks, anything that people go out to do, restaurants, is all affected by this. And when I say we're going to get back to normal, what I really mean is the new normal. It's never going to be like it was before. You're right about that. But what people are great at is adapting, and we're going to adapt, and we're going to find new methods to sanitize, new methods to mitigate this. Even if there are new strains, um, we'll find new ways to protect ourselves against it, and we'll bounce
Well, you
back.
know, one cool thing, actually, you made me just think about something there. There was this one, I don't know if it was like Busch Gardens or somebody like that, but there was this one amusement park place where they had a really cool idea. They had this like thing that you put on your face, and it's like magnetic, and then the VR thing just snaps on. So all you would really need to do is have this thing sanitized and clean, and then you just snap the VR thing on and you're good to go, right? Maybe that could be a solution for some of these location-based entertainment centers. Speaking of, oh
Yeah,
no,
they.
go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, they could have things like that put in some kind of a chamber that sanitizes it. A lot of these VR accessories now, they're selling these things where they use light to
Ah,
sanitize your
yeah.
phone. They could do something similar to that, but obviously you'd have to protect your screens and lenses and things. But the whole point is there are ways, and we're going to find more ways to work
Yeah,
around
they
it.
just drop it in a vat of liquid nitrogen and pull it right out. It'll be nice and clean. But yeah, oh, no, speaking of the location based entertainment thing, you probably haven't tried this, Wes, but you know what? I highly recommend you do try this. There's this program, I just did a video on it. It's called Custom Home Mapper. I kept saying Custom Home Mapper VR, but it's actually just Custom Home Mapper. And it's on SideQuest, and it's freaking amazeballs in certain ways. It's also kind of cheesy and crappy in certain ways. You haven't happened to try this, have you?
No, but I did see your video on it. I kind of thought you were trolling from your headline. I thought Anthony's got this idea for some way to map your house out and have these, next level immersive VR experiences. But no, I'm not familiar with the software, and I've never tried
Dude,
it.
it is straight next level. Okay, it's $8, it's on itch.io actually, but you can install it through site. Like you get the little APK thing, and then you load it through SideQuest on your Quest. It's basic. I think it's like $8 or $9, and what this program does. So like in my room right here, back in that corner, that's like a corner, right? So when you first turn this thing on, it gives you like this. There's like a flagpole that you see. And you basically, it's like with your right controller, you're holding this like flagpole. And the first thing that you have to do is you have to basically build all the walls of your house. And so what you do is you start off with one certain corner. Like I would walk over there, plant my flagpole. Then I bring the wall over to this edge where the wall ends. Then I go like this. And basically, so you go around your entire friggin' house, like every room. You go to every room, so you map your entire floor plan of your house. So that'll give you the basic floor plan of your house, because what'll happen is you go all the way around your entire house, then you'll come back, be back in this room, you're going around these walls, you're going over there, and then you come back to the original point that you hit, and when you connect it, then it goes like, and then it's like, okay, now it has the basic map of your house. Then what you have to do is you have to account for all the ginormous obstacles everywhere that you're about to die on because you're about to trip on it, right? But you make like these like squares, you make these cubes for like chairs and sofas and tables or whatever. You just make all these different squares and you put them all around so that you won't bump into certain objects. And then when you're done with that, you can actually texture these squares and make it look like a bed, make it look like a sofa, make it look like a round table, or put a lamp there or whatever, and you can kind of make it look a little bit better. Then when you're done with all that, then there's like this little video game console that's built in there, and you grab these different games, and the games will actually take advantage of your whole friggin' house, dude. I was playing this one game. It's called Vortex, I think. And it's kind of similar to like Zortex 26XX or whatever. I think the guy even mentions that it's basically a clone of that, kind of like he copied it. And you're literally walking, like I'm literally walking through my entire house playing a VR game. And it's actually taking advantage of obstacles and putting bases on tops of obstacles and shit. So I'm like hiding behind different obstacles and shooting with this ship. It's freaking redonk, man. It's like totally next level. Now the thing is, it's dangerous as F. Like so seriously, I had my Quest on, and see the thing is, you've got obstacles on the ground, but the one thing that this software, I don't think it accounts for this, but hopefully I'll be doing an interview with the dev and I'll find out more. But the thing is, we also have obstacles that are higher up, like something that's like sticking out of something. And I don't think it really accounts for that. So when I was trying to map my entire house, right? And I came back into this room and I was walking along, and then all of a sudden, bam, I was wearing my Quest, and I batter rammed my Quest, dude. I was like, oh shit, I just broke my Quest too, because like the tracking wasn't working for a second. But I think it's okay. But there's so many little things that you might have laying around in your house. See, that's the thing, like dogs, cats, like it's not going to count for that. And like if you have a kid and he like leaves his shoes in the floor, in one room or whatever, and you've mapped your entire house, and then if you're really trusting it and you're really walking around, you could easily totally injure yourself. But it's such a game changer. Do you think this is something you might try, or do you think it's just too involved, too ridiculous, you don't have time to like try to map your whole effing house?
I wouldn't do my whole place because we don't have a lot of space here. I mean, I don't have the biggest house in the world, and especially like in my bedroom and some of the other rooms, there's a lot of stuff. But like the central area in my house would be perfect for something like this because there is quite a bit of space in there. Obviously, we'd have to clear some room out, kind of move some things to the side. But it sounds great. I'm curious how this works with the Guardian boundary. Do you have to disable
turn the
Guardian
Guardian off. This becomes your new Guardian. Basically, what it does is it's almost like you're building a wireframe of your walls and large obstacles. You're pretty much building this wireframe, and then as soon as you're done, like you can put Like it goes and it makes everything like all colored. Dude, it is next level. Okay, if you watch the videos for it, it's like people will watch the videos for it and they're like, this looks garbage. It looks like Minecraft. Yeah, but you're not in there experiencing it. And like the video that the guy has for it, this is a problem for all Quest developers, right? Somebody needs to figure out a way to make Quest like trailers and stuff that aren't this little square. Now I know like the big companies know how to do that, but like little individual developers, like for example, Contractors VR on the Quest, have you seen their trailers? It's like a little, it's a little horizontal square in the middle of the screen. It's not like a full open trailer. And somebody needs to figure that out because it doesn't make it look very impressive. But dude, if you have a friend, so here's what I want to do with this program. Somebody let me into an empty house so I can just map the shit out of that place and play all these different games, and it's totally empty. Like somebody has a house that they're cleaning out and then like no one's or actually go house shopping and just be like, can I use the house for like 45 minutes? I just want to map this shit real quick. I'm thinking of taking it to my work and mapping a little section of where I work and then letting like my boss and other people try it because they would put it on. Because when you first map everything out, it's like this blue room and all your obstacles are like these blue cubes and you're like in effing Tron, man. You're in Tron. You just created Tron in your own house. It is freaking so next level. But yeah.
Yeah, we all need to we need to befriend a real estate agent so that we can constantly have these nice big empty areas to play
Exactly. In the future, people, I was showing this to some people, and they were like, "Why would you want to do this? You're not even living." And I'm like, "Yeah, exactly. You could have an ugly, crappy house. There could be roaches everywhere, but you're living in a freaking mansion, a palace, because you can put windows anywhere and like look out on beautiful scenes. And this stuff is going to get better and better and better because like." Facebook is doing, of course, live maps, and then Qualcomm has that scene recognition and understanding. So this is something that's coming into the future where we're going to be able to combine physical with VR, like our keyboards, our mice. Pretty soon we're going to have headsets, and it's going to look at your keyboard and do keyboard analyze, keyboard input. It's ready to go. Your mouse has been analyzed. Your cat has been analyzed, and it's going to remember these things. And then, okay, let's turn cat into a little zombie cat in a game. And you're going to be, there's some crazy shit going on, man. It's really cool. Definitely check it out if you can. I mean, for $8, you got to be careful though. Somebody might die. I'm telling you, dude, somebody might die. So be careful out there. Okay, let's see here. Another question I have for you. Okay, so Microsoft and Google. So one of the questions I have here is Microsoft and Google have both dipped their toes in the VR waters, but both of them have seemingly backed away from VR. So Google obviously had Daydream and Microsoft has Windows Mixed Reality. And they tried it early on and both of them have kind of been like, okay, we're going to back away from it. My question is, now that Apple is getting in the game, do you think that this is going to awaken these sleeping giants? And will Microsoft possibly get back in? Will Google come back in after the Daydream debacle? Will they come back with something else? Because now that if Apple really gets up in this business here, and we've already got Facebook, like how can Google just stand around and watch these other two companies do this? And the same thing with Microsoft and any other ginormous player.
Yeah, I think Google is just incredibly inept, and they always cut bait early on any of these developing technologies. So I don't have any confidence in them whatsoever to get back in. Now with Microsoft's a different story because they never jumped fully out. They've kind of not really supported WMR the way that it should have been. And obviously Xbox has been pretty, Phil Spencer's been pretty outspoken against going to VR right now. But when you look at other things like their software, their support for VR has expanded pretty significantly with your flight simulators. There's tons of different enterprise related applications that now support VR that are from Microsoft. And then you have the fact that, that they just, well, a lot of people were talking about this id Software VR game that just got revealed last week. The thing that people are missing with this is that this is a Microsoft company now. So, what's that going to mean for PlayStation VR? I mean, that's kind of a whole different topic. But I feel like Microsoft has kept one toe in the water, and they never really have fully pulled out. And I think as demand and public awareness increases, you'll see them react slowly as they always do, but they will eventually get themselves where they need to
Yeah,
be.
I agree with you, and in fact, I think Google has a toe in the water. Like, we just don't know about it, but in private rooms somewhere, in development somewhere, like, they know VR is not a dud and it's never going to happen. They just know that they were too early with Daydream. But for them to just like completely walk away from VR and never visit it again, they put 500 million into Magic Leap. We know that they're doing AR stuff as well. They definitely have some VR thing that they're cooking up. And Microsoft, one of the things that people forget about with Microsoft, I don't know if you've ever seen this video, but it was like Microsoft Research or something. They had this thing where a guy had like a backpack and a VR headset with all these like weird cameras on it, and he was like going through an entire hotel, like a big ballroom, and it was in real time. It was basically doing scene recognition and understanding, and basically like creating like a giant video game off this huge space that this guy was walking around in. Do you remember that video at all? It was like Microsoft Research Labs or something. It was kind of like weird. It
No.
wasn't on like their main channels and no one really advertised it. And if my freaking computer wasn't broken right now, I could grab the video and show you guys. But yeah, so guys, I'm not leaving this trailer on for 45 minutes for nothing. My computer is frozen. I just want to remind everybody. But I just want to finish this show and get it done. Okay, let's see. Did I have any other major questions I wanted to bang you with? And let's see. Let me see. Going back over here. So social VR experiences. What about this? What do you think about these different social VR experiences, like big screen beta and stuff like that? Like some people, like Alt Space VR, big screen beta, V Time, all these different things. Some people like are really into this stuff and think it's like game changing and it's like so revolutionary, and then other people go in them and they're like, this isn't that great. Why are people so into this? Where do you fall, or are you somewhere in between?
I think, obviously, people's reactions to these sorts of applications are going to vary because we're all kind of in different places on that spectrum of how outgoing and social that we are. I'm kind of a recluse myself. I enjoy single player games. I don't play a lot of multiplayer, but I do enjoy some of these experiences like big screen, for example, as long as I can limit it to a few close friends and I'm not in with the general public. I do enjoy the services they provide. I think the really important thing to note with these types of softwares is that this is really the end game. This is why Facebook's in it. This is why Apple's in it. They're all trying to build this big next level social platform. Again, and I'm sure it's all about data collection, but gaming has just kind of always been the carrot on the end of the stick to get people to jump in. It's not the end game. The social stuff is the end game, and you're going to begin to see it become more prevalent over the next few years as they try to entice people to jump into things like Horizon. And while we're on the topic, rest in peace, Wave VR beta. I really enjoyed that one. That was probably my favorite social experience I've had in VR, and it's going away now, and I find it
Yeah, and
sad.
if you read into that whole story about the Wave VR, and they're basically like, they basically are saying just not enough people they just weren't able to make much money from that, and it just wasn't happening. And it's weird how we get these like oh, the Oculus Quest is selling as fast as they can make them, and these good things are happening, but then we also have these really negative things, like the Void is basically dead, and wait, it's like almost two different worlds. It's like somebody that says VR is dead, they can point to the Void, and they can point to the Wave VR, and they can point to this and that, but then somebody that says, oh, VR is freaking better than ever. They can point to like Saints and Sinners making 29 million or whatever in 1 year, and like all the different Oculus Quest headsets that are selling as fast as they can make them. So yeah, it is kind of bizarre. Now, what you were talking about as far as the end game, I do agree with you, especially when we get to the point where we have like those Facebook avatars. Because see, here's one of the problems I have with like big screen beta or like Outspace or Rec Room or any of these things. To me, they have a gee whiz factor when you first try them. It's like, gee whiz, oh, this is really cool. Look at that little weeble wobble that's moving around over there that has the voice of Wes, and it's kind of like spatially aware. So I'm not here, I got to get close to him, and then I hear the voice better. If I'm far away, I barely hear the voice. But it's a little weeble wobble. I feel like we got to get way past weeble wobbles. We got to have hand tracking. We got to have some body tracking, because then, see, right now, I'm one of the people that make an argument that is like, why use big screen beta? Just use Zoom. Then you can really see the person. Like, what are you really gaining with big screen beta? Now, if you tell me, okay, big screen beta has the Facebook avatars and you got actual freaking bodies and you got people, so you see body language, if somebody's leaning or they're doing something with their body. We learn so much. We know so much from the different things that people do when they're like, just the way somebody's standing, you can tell if they're like angry or they're like in a neutral spot or they're happy. I mean, there's so much that's in body language. And I do believe it'll be absolutely game changing when like your grandma that lives like in New York or so, like she's in some other, no, she lives in Florida, right? Okay, so your grandma lives in Florida, but she's like sitting on your sofa, and you have your VR headset on, and she has a VR headset on, but like inside the headset, you're just looking at grandma, and she's just sitting on your sofa, and she sees you, and all it. There would be no difference. It's like freaking teleportation, basically. It's defy distance. That is really going to happen, and that is going to be incredible. But are we going to have to wait like 7 or 8 years? How long do you think this is going to take?
Well, I think it's very telling that what you're pretty much describing here is the Michael Abrash future that we've seen from so many previous Oculus Connects. But this past year, and even the year before, he quit date setting, right? Because his time frames always kept getting longer and longer and farther away. So yeah, we are going to get there, but I do think it might be a while. And how sad is it, by the way, that when it comes to these avatars, Rec Room still kind of is the gold standard, because they have the mouth that at least moves when you're talking, and it's, it at least provides that level of immersion. But still, nothing else really has lived up to even just that.
Yeah, remember the Toby video with the eye tracking and all that? Remember we thought we were going to have this eye tracking future like a couple of years ago? Here we are in 2021. We still don't got no effing eye tracking. Did you see that one headset though? It's like the Unai headset with like all the weird, like the little box and all this like weird stuff, where they're like making this headset that's very specifically for like a metaverse. Like, who knows? I mean, they're trying to do body tracking in the headset as well, like little cameras that are down facing that's gonna like do your tracking. Because like if you watch those old Facebook videos where they do the advanced avatars, they have a Quest on, but it's like extending like Kylo Ren style. So it has like these cameras that are like tracking all your facial muscles. And like, are our future headsets going to extend like that so they can track our facial muscles? Or is that just to like build the algorithm?
I think that it's very possible. Well, I mean, even a lot of the Sony patents have had these types of, facial tracking and body tracking applications, worked into them, and it is very important. Again, for their end game, the irresistible social VR platform. that everybody wants to be the first to have. So yeah, I think we're going to get there, and whether that comes from external tracking or tracking built right into the headset, that remains to be seen. But yeah, I do think that again, time frame notwithstanding, I think we are eventually going to get to
Hey,
that.
going back to that thing I was talking about, custom home mapper, he also has like a multiplayer mode. So you can invite somebody into your like little created house, and like they can put a chair where another chair is, and like you can kind of live the dream. It's like ghetto as hell. I mean, it's very Minecrafty and very basic with the graphics, but I really recommend it to anybody out there, because if you want to see like 3 years into the future, this dude's software is like 3 years into the future. Because basically, like what I said in that other video, it's basically a ghettoized version of scene recognition and understanding, or like live maps. You're basically creating it yourself. And this is something I talked about this a long time ago. I was like, why can't some developer make some program where you can make like a rectangle, you measure like the actual size of your walls, you put all the measurements in, and then it just says stand in the very middle of your room. But this guy does it a different way. It's kind of a cooler way that he does it. It's even easier because you're just grabbing and making the walls, and you're just like sizing things and shrinking it. But yeah, I mean, with the multiplayer, I haven't tried that part yet, but really next gen. So maybe check that out. Let's see. I think I've covered pretty much everything on here. There's a lot of other stuff I did want to get into, but because everything, my computer is totally locked up, I don't even know how I'm going to end this stream, man. It's that jacked up that I don't know if I'll be able to.
Just pull the
I
plug,
think I might
bro.
have to. But yeah, Wes, I really do want to thank you so much for coming on the show. And I'll definitely have to have you back again, maybe even sooner than normal, because I didn't get to all my questions because I don't have all my trailers and I can't really do it right. But still, it was cool to have you on tonight.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for having me on. And sure, I'll be glad to come on anytime. I always have a great time talking about VR with you on your show here. You always have different questions than most people, so it's always a
Hey,
lot of
did you
fun.
guys get to? Have you hit the 1,000 mark yet? Or you're? I know you're really close with Virtual Strangers.
950. We're hovering right around 950. We put on a good chunk right there, right around the 2020 show, obviously because we had the longest stream of all time and the biggest game giveaway of all time. And I don't say that in jest. I don't think anybody's ever given away as many games as we gave away during the 2020 show. So we put on a big chunk of subs right there around that, and we've kind of just hovered there. We haven't had the drop off that I expected. Normally when you do a giveaway, you'll have a bunch come in and then they'll drop right back out. We haven't really seen that, but we're not really advancing for the last week or maybe even longer, maybe even like a week and a half. We haven't put on a whole lot, but we're very close. We're right there, 950 plus. So yeah, if any of you out there haven't checked out our podcast, please do so. It's called Virtual Strangers, and please hit that red button. We need to get to that all important magical 1,000 number so we can be partners,
Yeah,
bro.
come on, guys. Seriously, just a small percentage of my subs just go over there, subscribe, and they can get to the 1,000 mark. I wish I could like get into my OBS thing and go to your channel and show it, but unfortunately I can't. But yeah, we definitely got to get you to 1,000. And you know what I'll do is next time I'm on MRTV, because he's got a pretty wide audience, I'll have to mention, dude, Virtual Strangers. I mean, because if you think about the podcasts that are in VR, I mean, the VR related podcasts, it's not like we got 25 of them. You basically got F Reality, you got the First Dimension podcast, you've got Rendered Reality, you got Virtual Strangers, you got Between Realities, and like the VR Link. I mean, there's not like 25 of them. There's like 7 or 8 different podcasts. And if you're somebody like me where you work in an office and you're doing kind of like a mundane thing for like 8 hours and you have the ability to like hear things in headphones or something like that, dude, Virtual Strangers is a freaking lifesaver, man. They have all these different shows. They're so regular so much content and just really friendly, very pleasant. Like, see, the other thing too is I kind of wanted to get you on here, Wes, and get you talking a little negative about some stuff. I was going to go into like, what do you think is the most overrated game and stuff like that. We didn't get into that, but because you guys are so friendly and so toxic positivity over there at Virtual Strangers. But definitely join up, definitely sub. It's well worth it.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for saying all that. And when it comes to VR podcasts, not to brag, but we're pretty much the best that I know of.
No, you
I'm just
guys
joking.
are, man.
But who else? We went on quantity, right? I mean, who else does an 8-hour podcast, right? Just VR. And by the way, we held the viewers through the whole thing. Like, we had a solid 50 start to finish in that thing. It was really amazing.
Oh my God. Was that the one where I came in for a minute where you talking about your all these different rules that you had for how the games are going to work and all that? Was that one?
Oh yeah, it's the giveaway rules. Yeah, we had rules for how to give away all those
Yeah,
games.
dude.
Because we couldn't have like people hoarding keys and
Those
shit, right?
rules you got real deep with it. It was almost like going to like a fantasy football draft or something because
Oh no, you're talking about our. I think you might be talking about our competition.
oh
Roots
yeah,
and
yeah.
I put together a competition uh, that's based around finishing games. It's meant to make us finish games. It's kind of the whole idea behind it. But we wanted it to be a year-long thing. So I kind of had to, I kind of had to come up with a system so that if one of us gets way ahead on the other one, that there's ways for the other one to make up ground. So yeah, there was a bunch of rules involved in that, and it's basically all built around making up ground in the points so that we can both play to the end of the
Yeah,
end.
it sounds like a really cool competition. I mean, it really does sound fun and unique. Very definitely like detailed and like elaborate. VR Spry Guy in chat says when Virtual Strangers hits 1,000 subs, Roots does a backflip. No, Roots shaves his effing beard. That's what he does. Or Roots dyes his beard or something. Or cuts it off and tapes it to the top of his head. He's got to do something crazy, right?
Well, he's already agreed to the backflip, although I it might have been a bit tongue in
Oh my
cheek.
God, maybe he really knows how to do that. Some people really know how to do that. Alrighty, guys.
Possibly, I wouldn't bet on it.
Alrighty, Wes. Well, thanks again so much for joining me for episode 378. Remember, folks, we're talking about the longest running VR podcast in the history of all podcasts. Maybe not, maybe so, I don't know. But yeah, that's going to do it for this episode. And thanks so much for joining me, everybody. And we'll see you guys next time. And let's see if I can go ahead and end the stream properly. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. And